There are currently more than 260 perks in Dead by Daylight, and in this video we're going to take a look at the ones that went from absolutely awful to very good. This video was done in collaboration with Modern Agony, so make sure to check out his video on perks that fell from grace too. But without any further ado, let's get right into it. One perk that fits this description pretty well in my opinion is Alert from Feng Min. Now, although Alert is by no means overpowered, it is definitely severely underrated. Currently, this perk allows you to see the killer's aura for 5 seconds whenever they perform a breaking action. So for instance, kicking pallets, generators and breakable walls. And there's also a pretty cool audio cue whenever that happens. This is good for multiple reasons. First of all, you obviously get information on the killer's exact whereabouts. And even if you don't see their aura for whatever reason, then at least that still gives you enough information to deduce that the killer is probably using some kind of stealth ability. Also, Alert really helps out when killers fake breaking pallets, as it pretty much counters the whole strategy. But back when the perk first came out along with the release of Chapter 4 Spark of Madness, it only provided aura reading for 3 seconds instead of the current 5. Moreover, not only did Alert have a cooldown of half a minute, but it also featured a range limit too. Even at tier 3, Alert only worked within 36 meters of the killer breaking something. In addition, the fact that breakable walls didn't exist yet further limited this perk's abilities. Thankfully though, about a little bit more than a month after the release of Alert, the developers decided to buff it by increasing the aura reading duration to 6 seconds. However, this change didn't really address the main reasons for why this perk was considered pretty weak back then. And so Behavior ended up completely removing the range limit, as well as the perk's cooldown during patch 2.3.0, although they did slightly nerf the duration down to 5 seconds. And this is how this perk has stayed ever since then. But what makes it so good in the current state of DBD is the fact that killers are more incentivized to kick generators today compared to in the past. And also every new map seems to contain a ridiculous amount of pallets too, which makes this perk activate very often. Yet another perk that went from awful to amazing is of course Buckle Up from Ash Williams. When it came out in the 2.4.0 update, all that it did was show you the recovery progress of dying survivors, which could also be determined by the intensity of their aura at a distance of up to 48 meters away. Oh, and also, whenever you got somebody off the ground, you would both see the killer's aura for 6 seconds. This in itself was kinda useless already, and very niche to say the least. Despite that, the only change that Buckle Up received in the first 3 years of its existence was one of the most insignificant and minor buffs ever. To truly illustrate how bad this perk was, during the start of 2023 when the new Survivor HUD icons were added in order to improve communication between solo queue teammates, one of the main features of Buckle Up literally became a base kit ability. That being the fact that you could now see your dying teammates' recovery progress at any time without any range limitations. And the developers failed to provide a meaningful rework for this perk yet again, with them just lazily slapping some haste onto it. But somehow, almost in complete contrast to all of the suffering that this perk endured, when patch 7.1.0 came out, Buckle Up was made practically overpowered when paired with, you guessed it, For the People. I don't even think I have to explain why this was so crazy, it's literally a variation of the old insta-heal add-ons. Regardless though, this perk is thankfully getting nerfed in the upcoming 8.0.0 update. Let me know what you think about this down in the comments. Okay, so because we have only been talking about Survivor perks till now, let's change it up a little bit and pass the mic over to Modern Agony.
Another perk that falls into the category of bad perks which became good is Sloppy Butcher. Today Sloppy Butcher is a fairly common killer perk that is mostly used in order to slow down healing, but in some situations it can also allow you to interrupt the survivor's healing progression and cause it to regress back down to 0%. Lovely stuff. Sloppy Butcher used to be even more popular at the height of the hit and run meta, but did you know that the original iteration of this perk was, in all honesty, pretty rubbish? Well, back when DBD first was released, all it did was simply increase the survivor's bleeding frequency. And the fact that the description did not even specify the extent of this increased bleeding frequency didn't help it either. You could say that it was the smaller brother of Bloodhound that no one ever needed, and let's face it, no one even needs Bloodhound either. After some time though, the mangled status effect was added to the perk's effects, and just like that, Sloppy Butcher slowly started gaining more and more traction among the community. However, the perk received arguably its biggest buff to date with patch 5.70, which was the same one that introduced the Haddonfield visual rework. See, this was when Hemorrhage was changed from being one of the most useless status effects to actually being pretty viable and outright game-changing at times. Keep in mind that this was during a time when Boone's Circle of Healing was still incredibly powerful. If there only was a small YouTuber who mentioned this perk in a different video, huh? So it should come as no surprise that many killer players started adding Sloppy Butcher to their builds. Even with the eventual long-awaited rework to Circle of Healing, Sloppy Butcher continued being a very popular pick. And as you can see, when Behavior released perk usage statistics about a year ago, this was the second most used killer perk. Though in a recent update, Sloppy Butcher was given a fairly sizable nerf, with both the Hemorrhage and Mangled status effects now being on a 90-second timer. Still, this perk doesn't seem to be going anywhere and will probably remain as stable among killer perks.
Moving on, another killer perk like this is Grim Embrace. So, you know how today the perk has a secondary effect which blocks all generators for 40 seconds and reviews the Obsession's aura after you've obtained 4 tokens? Well, when Grim Embrace first came out, this was literally the perk's one and only ability. Yep, that's right. Originally, Grim Embrace only had an effect once you had hooked all 4 survivors at least once. This made the perk fairly niche and, as far as I remember, very few players used it in their loadouts. However, during the 7.5.0 update, Grim Embrace was given a pretty significant buff. See, in addition to its original ability, the perk was now made to block all generators for 12 seconds, upon hooking a survivor for the first time and getting further than 16 meters away from the hook. This change single-handedly transformed Grim Embrace into a meta perk overnight. And apparently so many people use this perk that the developers decided that they're going to be slightly nerfing it in the upcoming 8.0.0 patch. Yet another perk that was bad but became good is Background Player. Background Player was the definition of a badly designed perk when it was first released in the Tools of Torment PTB during early 2023. Back then, Background Player activated upon unhooking another survivor and had a sprint duration of 6 seconds. And this speed boost wasn't given to the unhooked survivor, instead it gave you, the unhooker, a speed boost. As you can tell, this left the unhooked survivor very vulnerable, and the perk basically encouraged tunneling. So for the live release of the 6.6.0 update, Background Player was changed into a perk that helps you get flashlight saves a little bit easier. The perk now provided a 150% speed boost for 4 seconds and caused exhaustion for 40 seconds upon usage, allowing you to get into position for the flashlight save much quicker than before. But for some reason the developers decided to buff this perk, which was already pretty good as it was, by doubling the strength of the speed boost and increasing its duration. This change single-handedly made Background Player one of the most frustrating perks to face as a killer, and thankfully, similar to a lot of the perks on this list, Background Player will also be receiving a nerf in the next update. Moving on, we're now gonna talk a little bit about Distortion. This perk was never really that bad to begin with, though it was used a lot more rarely in the past. For starters, the perk was only limited to 3 tokens per match, as there was no way to regain them during the trial. This was later changed to 4 tokens max, though in the infamous 6.1.0 patch, Behavior ultimately decided to rework Distortion into how it works today, allowing you to regenerate a token every 30 seconds that you spent in the killer's terror radius. Apparently, a lot of people aren't happy about the current state of this perk. I personally never really had a problem with it, but that's probably because I'm too uncoordinated to notice when it's actually getting used against me when I'm playing killer. Well, I guess that was it. These were 6 DBD perks that went from awful to amazing. Huge thanks goes to Modern Agony, who was the person that initiated this whole collaboration in the first place. If you guys like my content, then I reckon that you will absolutely love his videos as well, so I seriously suggest checking out his channel too. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!